My name is Joel, and if we haven't had a chance to meet, I'm one of the pastors around here at Connect, and this morning we're wrapping up our teaching series. We spent the last 4 weeks talking about some of the basics of what it means to follow Jesus and how we actually do that practically. On week 1, I shared a message talking a little bit about the idea of Jesus being the model. That he didn't just come to share, hey, just do what I say, not what I do, but he actually came to say, hey, here's what I say, now watch what I do. And we can actually follow the model of Jesus, putting the way he walked through his life into practice. Then on week 2, Frankie shared an awesome message about the heart, difficulty, simplicity, and importance of loving people. That our primary call as Jesus' followers is to love God and love people. And what that means for her as a mother and what that means for all of us as followers of Jesus. And then last week, our good friend Dave Manny helped answer the question, why church? Why do we gather? Why do we follow Jesus together as a community? And how can we individually invite, invest, and integrate all that God has given us personally into this movement together? It's been a fun series so far, hasn't it? A couple people are stoked. I'm stoked. Every time we answer a question, it's like, is he asking us? Does he want us to say something? Is this just a figurative? Joel asks a lot of questions. Maybe he's just asking weird questions today. Well, today, I want to close with a message near and dear to my heart. A message that is simple, but honestly so vitally important to following Jesus. Something that we have to come back to again and again and again because it can be so easy to get off course. But before we jump in, let's pray this morning. God, I just thank you again for who you are. God, I thank you for this opportunity to gather this morning, to be able to sing some songs, to be able to worship you, and to be able to learn more about you and who we are in light of that. God, I pray, God, as we look at some of the scriptures, as we look at some of the truths that you've given us, God, I pray that it would be more than just my words. I pray that it would be more than a couple ridiculous jokes or a guy clowning himself around on this stage, but God, that you would speak. God, that you would speak to us individually right where we are at this morning. God, we invite your Spirit to come, to minister, to speak, to lead, to guide, to encourage, to come alongside us as, God, we venture to try to follow Jesus more and more with all that we are. God, we love you and we praise you. Amen. One of the things you should know about me, if you don't know me very well, is that I am a movie guy, like a serious movie guy. I love movies. I love action movies and sci-fi and fantasy and comedy and drama and indie and thrillers and crime and war and epic movies. I've even been known to enjoy a romantic comedy from time to time. A couple ladies in the house, yes. Ultimately, I love stories. I love getting caught up in the world of a movie, fully immersed in the plot, the characters, the dialogue, the tension, the danger, the development, fully immersed in the movie, and of course, the popcorn. There's something about the popcorn so tantalizing and buttery and delicious. Ooh. Stay old popcorn. Not nearly as good as I'm sure when I bought it, but there's something about the popcorn. Like, have you ever been to a movie with a friend and you go and you get your ticket and you're kind of lining up to get popcorn and they don't get in line with you? You ever had that moment? I have a few friends that are like that. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm just here to see a movie. Like, no. We're here to eat popcorn and look at a screen while we do that. That's what we're really here to do. Like, I don't even understand it. That there are people in this world that can go to a movie and not get popcorn. They can just sit there, or they can like sneak nibs in their purse or something like that. It blows my mind. It's actually pretty good. Like, I understand that the bag is like $70, and I know that because for the first time I went to the movie theater to buy a bag of popcorn, and I didn't buy a ticket with it, and it like really hurt my soul, actually. And I know it's $70. I know that. And I know that I'm going to need like 3 liters of cola to be able to get it down. I know that as well, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. I love movies. I love the way they're constructed, the way they play with our emotions, our thoughts, our personality, the ways that we can find ourselves wrapped up in them. One of the devices that movies use to accomplish, I actually need to drink some water. That is salty, my goodness. Never like eat a handful of popcorn and then tried to speak for a little while after that. One of the devices that a movie uses to accomplish this sort of feat, to sort of get us wrapped up in the story, to get us fully immersed in the story, is a lesser known object called a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin. Alfred Hitchcock popularized it with a few of his films, but it can be found in so many movies that we love to watch. Basically, what a MacGuffin is an object that helps to drive the narrative forward, providing the necessary tension to help an audience be fully immersed. The MacGuffin is kind of like the X factor, that object that all the characters in the movie are running after. And it's not just running after because it's going to like make things a little bit better. Like they're fully immersed in this object because they know they need it to survive. Their everything is about the MacGuffin. We see it in so many movies. We see it in The Lord of the Rings. Of course, the MacGuffin would be the ring. Yes, awesome. That was a real question. Well done. We see it in Star Wars. In Star Wars, of course, the MacGuffin is the Death Star plans. Basically, in all of the movies, there's some sort of Death Star plans that they're trying to get after. We see it in the movie Dude, Where's My Car? Maybe you've seen that. Probably shouldn't. But the MacGuffin is the car, of course. We see it in movies Monty Python and the Da Vinci Code. Somebody just got on. He just said, "Dude, where's my car?" on stage. That's ridiculous. Monty Python's Da Vinci Code, Indiana Jones, it's the Holy Grail. In Mission Impossible, it was the Rabbit's Foot or Chimera or any of the other 70 Tom Cruise movies he's chasing after. Something in the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, it is, of course, the pants. You see, the MacGuffin is generally an object, but sometimes it's more than an object. It takes some form of family or fame or money or victory or power, or maybe it's a man or a woman. It's this relentless pursuit. The reason why I believe this plot device is so successful is that it stirs from something deep within us. It so describes us, our hunger, our desire, our pursuit of what will fill us, what will make us whole, what will satisfy us, what will bring us peace and contentment and hope and joy and completeness. We see it around us in our culture all of the time. We see it in every ad basically on TV, that basically communicating that if I only had that one item, then I might be a real man, or I might be a real woman, or a happy couple, or successful, or beautiful, or whatever, if I only had that thing. We also hear it in the words of the poets of our day. We have Mick Jagger singing, "I can't get no satisfaction." We have Bruce Springsteen singing, "Everybody's got a hungry heart." And we have, of course, Bono singing, "I still haven't found what I'm looking for." The desire, the longing, the search, the need, and the pursuit. A couple of years ago, Jim Carrey presented an award at the Golden Globes, and I want you to check out this video. It's pretty interesting.
From the upcoming film True Crimes, please welcome two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey.
Thank you. I am two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey, going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. No, sir. I dream about being three-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey. Because then I would be enough. it would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search for what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. But these are important, these awards.
Isn't that amazing? So good. For what will ultimately not fulfill me. As we jump into the message this morning, I want to ask you 3 questions. And what I would encourage you to do is maybe turn to somebody sitting near you and just think about these questions, talk about these questions for just a couple minutes. Or if you want, just consider them for yourself. But the 3 questions I have for you is 1, have you ever heard of a MacGuffin? Number 2, what do you think are some of the biggest MacGuffins in our culture? Some of the biggest things that people are running and searching after. And 3, can you go to the movies and not get popcorn? You have 3 minutes. Talk about those questions, and we'll be right back. So quickly, by show of hands, who has heard of a MacGuffin before? MacGuffins, couple people. Vaguely, maybe I've heard of that before at some point or another. Cool. What do you guys think? And I'd love to hear some. What do you think are some of the prevailing MacGuffins of our culture? What do you think are maybe some of the things? Status? Being Joel's, no. Money. What else? Power, happiness. Popcorn, yes, of course. Thank you. What's that? Fame, yeah. Impressive beards. Fortunately, some of you will never really arrive there. That wasn't very pastoral of me. If it was just a little bit bigger. Philosopher and theologian Peter Rollins said this, and I thought this was so interesting. He said, I hope everyone's dreams come true so that they discover they were never going to satisfy them in the first place. You see, in the Bible, Jesus had a lot to say about this search, this pursuit, our MacGuffins, and he was abundantly clear. He was the only one. He is the only one that could satisfy. He is the only one who could fulfill. If you're new around here and you're not really too sure where you're at with this Jesus thing yet, let me be the first to share with you that I am convinced Jesus is the only one who can ever truly satisfy what you're longing and searching for. The only one. The only thing, the only MacGuffin worth searching after. There doesn't need to be any more MacGuffins. I seriously love that word. MacGuffins. Again and again in the Gospels, Jesus pointed to this and taught his disciples. In John chapter 6, Jesus is having a really complex conversation with his disciples. Basically, what had just happened is Jesus had just finished feeding the 5,000. And maybe you've heard of that story, and maybe you hadn't, but Jesus performed this wild miracle, and all of these people were fed bread and fish. And they were trying to find Jesus, and they were searching for him. And they found him, and they came upon Jesus. And Jesus said this really interesting statement. He says, you're looking for me, not because you saw the signs that I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. And I thought, that's kind of funny. Is Jesus mad about this? Is he going to rebuke them or challenge them and say, you're only looking after me because you know you're going to be hungry again in another couple hours, and you need to keep me close so that I can keep making bread happen for you. That's kind of what I feel like is happening in this story. And they have this really interesting conversation with Jesus and his disciples about bread and about eating food that will ultimately, what kind of food will ultimately fulfill us or sustain us. Again and again. And Jesus says to them, do not work for food that spoils. This isn't on the screen yet. But for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you, which he's referring to himself, which Jesus will give to you. And they said, Sir, always give us this bread. This is the bread that we want to eat. And just practically speaking, that kind of sounds awesome. Now, maybe you're like me and you like eating, so the idea of only eating once and being satisfied forever is kind of a bit of a horror story. But maybe we could save a boatload of time and just have one amazing, epic, satisfying meal and then never have to eat again. I feel like we'd maybe get more things done. I don't know, maybe. But anyways, he's saying food that will ultimately endure forever. And the disciples said to him, always give us this food. Then the punchline, the zinger, the climax of this whole conversation in verse 35, and I think it's up on the screen, Jesus declared, I am that bread. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never grow hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. You see, Jesus again and again points to himself. He's the fulfillment. He's the satisfaction. He's the life and the hope. Again and again in the Bible, it says in John 14:6, it says, Jesus answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus is saying, it's me, guys, it's me. I am what you've been searching for. In Matthew 6:13, it says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Do you want to know what righteousness is? Righteousness is becoming like Jesus. So he said, blessed are those that hunger and thirst for righteousness to become like me, for they will be filled. He even goes so far in Matthew 6:33, it says, but seek first his kingdom. Whose kingdom is he talking about? His, God's kingdom, Jesus' kingdom, and his righteousness. Once again, God's righteousness, Jesus' righteousness, and all of these things will be given to you as well. What he's saying is let me, Jesus saying, not Joel, but let me be your search. Let me be your pursuit. I am the only one that will satisfy you. And then the rest of the things will play out the way that they need to. You see, Jesus knew we were created with this longing, with this need, with this pursuit, with this hunger. He just shows us time and time again that we were always and will always be looking for him. And we can come to him, and we can find our identity in him, in Jesus. We can find peace and hope and contentment and life and purpose and healing, everything in him. Easy, right? For those of us maybe that have followed Jesus for a long time, maybe we would know that it isn't quite so easy all of the time. Even the disciples had a hard time with this. You see, Jesus called his disciples in the beginning of the Gospels. He sort of called these guys to come and follow him. And some of the disciples that he called, a bunch of them actually, were fishermen. And he went out to the water and he said, hey, guys, come and follow me. And I will teach you how to fish for men instead of fish for fish. I'll teach you how to love people, how to share the gospel, how to share the good news of Jesus with people. I'll teach you how to love people. I'll teach you how to be present with people. I'll teach you how to heal people. I'll teach you how to do this, all these incredible things. And it says that some of those fishermen, it says they left their nets and they followed him. Which I just love that picture. They left their nets. They left everything they had held on to their whole lives. They left their livelihood and their security and their money and their everything. They left everything behind and they followed after Jesus. And they walked with Jesus for 3 years, amazing 3 years. And they saw Jesus do all these incredible miracles. They saw him teach the masses. They spent time with him every single day. It would have been unbelievable. It would have been incredible. And yet, after Jesus died, so Jesus was caught and he was crucified. They nailed him to a cross and he died and they put him in the tomb and he stayed dead for 3 days. In that 3 days, I was surprised what I found in John 21. Because Jesus rose from the dead after 3 days. And he started appearing to his disciples. He kind of started searching them out to see where they were at. And in John 21, we actually see Jesus finds Peter and he finds some of the disciples. And what were they doing? In John 21, they were fishing, which I wasn't surprised by at first, right? Because maybe they were just hungry, right? They didn't have like the breadwinner in Jesus. See what I did there? They didn't have this guy that would keep giving them bread. That wasn't in my notes. That was a terrible joke. But they didn't have this person in Jesus to keep feeding them, right? So maybe they were just hungry. Maybe they just needed something to eat. But I think it's actually one step further than that. I think it's funny that they spent 3 whole years with Jesus and it only took them 3 days to just go back to their day jobs, to just go back to their nets, to go back to their own pursuits, to go back to their own MacGuffins. You see, at first I couldn't believe it, and then I could, because I do. Again and again, I grow in my relationship with Jesus. I come to him for life and fulfillment and hope and peace and meaning and purpose, and then I drift. I stray. I start looking for fulfillment in so many other things, in my career or in my relationships, in my kids or in money or in stuff or in vacations or in whatever. I start to take my eyes off Jesus and start looking to the stuff. I start to feel less and less satisfied and start searching out MacGuffins all over again. You see, the Bible has another word for MacGuffins, and unfortunately, we're not going to like it. It's the word idol. You see, an idol is basically a counterfeit God. An idol is anything that we have in our life that is more important to us than God. Anything that absorbs our heart or our imagination more than God. Anything that we seek to give us life and meaning and fulfillment that only God can give. Anything that is so central and essential to our life that if we were to lose it, we couldn't imagine going on. Here's a really simple equation to root out MacGuffins in our life, to root out these idols. A very simple equation. Jesus plus equals fulfillment. Life. Purpose, hope, peace, love. What in your life needs to sit in this place? You see, because the answer to this equation is nothing. What it should be is Jesus plus nothing equals fulfillment. That it's only Jesus, he's all I will ever need. It should be Jesus plus nothing equals life. Jesus plus nothing equals purpose or hope or peace or love or salvation. It should be Jesus plus nothing. And yet, for so many of us, it becomes Jesus plus money equals fulfillment. Or it becomes Jesus plus family. That I'm only really satisfied if I have Jesus, yeah, but I also need my family. Or it becomes Jesus plus fame, or Jesus plus position, or authority, or job, or title, or career, or anything. The list could go on and on and on. Jesus plus beauty, Jesus plus success, Jesus plus popcorn, Jesus plus alcohol, Jesus plus stuff or material things, Jesus plus anything. Viktor Frankl says it like this. He says, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. I would take it one step further, and I would say when we lose sight of Jesus, we distract ourselves with pleasure. Paul says it like this in Colossians chapter 2, verse 2 to 4 in the Message translation. It says, and this is so vital, make sure you hear this, even write it down. It says, I want you woven into a tapestry of love. Beautiful, eloquent words. In touch with everything there is to know of God. That sounds awesome. I also want to be in tune with that. Everything there is to know with God. Then you will have minds confident and at rest. Is there anyone in this room that would love to have a mind confident and at rest? I have 3 little kids. I would love a mind that's confident and at rest at 2 o'clock this morning when my kids were waking up. It says, then you will have minds confident and at rest, focused on Christ, focused on Jesus, God's great mystery. Don't miss that. Don't miss that right there. Focused on Christ, God's great mystery. You see, he is the thing that satisfies. He is the thing that we've been looking for. He is the thing that we've been longing for. All of the richest treasures of wisdom and knowledge are embedded in that mystery and nowhere else. Are you with me? You see what's happening here? And we've been shown the mystery in the person of Jesus. I'm telling you this because I don't want anyone leading you off on some wild goose chase after some other so-called mysteries or the secret. What he's saying is Jesus is what we've been longing for. Jesus is the only thing that can truly fulfill us, can truly satisfy us. We don't have to chase after the MacGuffins anymore. This is good news. So why follow Jesus? I guess at the end of the day is the question that I'm asking. It's because it's the only thing. He's the only thing that will satisfy, the only thing that will give us a deep sense of meaning and value of worth, the only thing that won't let us down. He's the only one. Jesus is enough. Now I know that message, this idea is so simple, and yet I also know in my own life, and I'm sure in the lives of so many of us, that it can be so easy to take our eyes off that. That it can be so easy to fall in the trap of going, yeah, it's awesome that I have Jesus, but I still need this in order to be happy. I still need something else in this place in order to be truly fulfilled. I need something else in that place in order to really experience peace or rest or confidence or anything that we long for in this world. So what do? How do we actually walk this out? Well, it starts by simply spending time with Jesus. It starts by spending time with him, gaining his heart, his motivation, his direction, his passion, his satisfaction, his love. So my challenge is invest in your relationship with Jesus. Sit with him. Spend time with him. Pray. Seek him and say, God, who do you really say that I am? I don't want to chase after this stuff anymore. How do you really feel about me? What did you really create me for? As we close the message or start to close, whenever a speaker says as we close, we just do that. Isn't it, Dave said that last week? We just do that to get your attention. As we start to close, as we begin to think about closing the message this morning, I want to give you a very simple exercise, a very simple, not like a Tae Bo exercise. Why did I think Tae Bo? I don't know. But I want to give you a practice. I want to give you maybe a way to approach this in your life. And if you're taking notes this morning, I'd encourage you to jot down a couple things. But I'd encourage you to maybe expand the way that you pray just a little bit. I would encourage you that when you sit with Jesus, I would encourage you to spend more time listening to him than you do to speaking with him. I don't know about you, but sometimes even after this past week, I found myself just in a place where my relationship with Jesus was kind of like all the other relationships in my life, which were like kind of scattered, kind of frantic. I just sort of blurted out a couple things kind of in passing, but I never actually spent any time with him. I never actually spent any time listening to him. I never actually spent any time in his practice or in his presence. Here's a practice that might help with that. And what it starts with is imagining. It starts with maybe just turning that little part on in your brain that maybe got stifled out in elementary school, but maybe just spend a couple minutes just imagining. Pray and seek God and then sit with him and imagine yourself in a beautiful place. Imagine yourself in a place that you've loved. Maybe it's a place that you grew up going to. Maybe it's a lone place. Maybe it's on a boat out in the water. Maybe it's in the wilderness or in the forest. Maybe it's sitting on some beautiful mountain vista. Just picture yourself in that place and then pray and just invite the Holy Spirit, invite Jesus to come and to sit with you. Now I know this kind of sounds a little bit different, a little bit maybe challenging, but honestly, I think for so many of us, this can be a really powerful way of not just praying words to Jesus, but actually just spend time sitting in his presence. Invite him to actually just literally come and sit with you. Because friends, he is with you. He is speaking to you. All you're doing when you spend time imagining this is just visualizing that actually happen. The thing about this sort of idea, which is sort of the idea of imaginative prayer is what it can be referred to as. The idea of it is what we're doing is we're actually just becoming aware of the reality that God is with us. That God is sitting with us, that God is entering into our life, and that we can hear from him, we can speak with him, he can speak his truths over our life. What's so powerful is that we're not making up something as much as we're becoming aware to a God who is with us, who is speaking to us. Find fulfillment in him. So, just to recap once again, spend a few minutes in prayer and then picture yourself sitting in this place, in a place that you love, a place of peace in your mind, a place of peace in your life. And then invite Jesus just to come and to sit with you. Invite him to come and speak. Invite him to come and share. And then I would encourage you to have a conversation with him. Express the desires of your heart. Express your longings. Express your frustrations, your hurts, your troubles. Express everything to God and just have this conversation with him. It can be a really beautiful practice. Another thing that might be helpful as you're doing this is to spend time in God's Word and remind yourself of who God really says that you are. Remind yourself that you are God's chosen, that you are beloved by God, that you are forgiven by him, that in him you have hope and you have peace and you have rest. Remind yourself how he feels about you. Now, for some of us, the picture of Jesus might be a little bit different. We're like, well, what does Jesus even look like? And ultimately, it doesn't really matter what he looks like. It doesn't matter if he's wearing a robe or he's got a big crazy beard, or it doesn't matter any of those things. What I'd encourage you to do is pay more attention to how he responds to you. Pay more attention to his heart or to the look in his eye more than getting caught up in what his appearance could look like. Start there. Just spending time with Jesus, finding your fulfillment, your satisfaction, your hope, your rest, your peace in just spending time with him. Just the other day while I was working on this message, actually, I just was kind of having a bit of a day. Like I said, my life is it's felt really busy and really scattered, and I just feel like I haven't really been all that present, and especially with Jesus, I hadn't really, it felt like I hadn't actually really spent time with him at all. All the interaction I've had with God, it just felt so rushed, so quick, kind of like all the other relationships in my life. So I just thought I would just sit with Jesus. I thought I would just maybe practice when I preach. I'd actually sit and think about some of this stuff. So what I did is, for me, I just spent time in prayer and I said, God, I just need to meet with you. God, I just need to experience something of you. God, I just want to love you. I want to follow you better. God, help me to do that. So for me, my safe place, and I know this is going to sound really crazy to some of you, but my safe place is a coffee shop. There's always other people whenever I visualize myself spending time with Jesus. It's kind of a weird thing. It's definitely a coffee shop I've never been to. It's definitely not Hot Shots where I'm going to run into 1,000 other people that I know, but it's this place that I've never been before. But I just pictured this coffee shop. And generally, like I explained it, you kind of picture yourself in that place and you invite Jesus to come in. But for me, as I was praying about this and I was thinking about this, I walked into the coffee shop and Jesus was already sitting there. And I was just like, what? This isn't right. I was supposed to sit down and then invite Jesus to come. And what Jesus was just communicating to me without any words at all, he was just communicating, I'm already here. I'm already waiting for you. I'm already longing to spend time with you. That Jesus showed up early to our coffee date. And that spoke so much to my heart. And I remember I just got a coffee and I went and I sat at the table with Jesus and I just looked into his eyes and they just kind of welled up a little bit. And it was just this moment where I felt like Jesus was just reminding me, this is all that I want. This is all that I need. I just want to spend time with you. I just want to love you. I just want to encourage you. And I actually spent, to be honest, I don't remember how many minutes, I spent 10 minutes praying and just sort of thinking in this way. And I didn't say anything. Actually, Jesus and I know this kind of sounds weird, but we were just sitting at the coffee shop and I didn't say any words to him at all. And he didn't say any words to me at all. And it didn't matter. I just needed to spend some time sitting in his presence. Just spend some time with him. And as I was preparing this message and I was laying some of this stuff out, I just really feel like there's some people in this room that you need to know that. You need to know that Jesus just longs to spend time with you. He just longs to encourage you. He longs to forgive you, to bless you, to come alongside you. That he's already waiting for the times and places where you'll pray. He's longingly anticipating the moments that you'll spend worshiping him or the moments that you'll spend in his presence. That Jesus just longs to be with you. You need to know that. I think there's some people in this room that really need to know that. And that maybe you need to have a conversation. Maybe Jesus needs to remind you who you really are. Or maybe you just need to take some time in your life, in your busyness, in your craziness, in your MacGuffins, in your distractions, and everything in your life, to just sit and to be with Jesus. Greg Boyd wrote a really helpful book about this. I thought I'd provide a resource. This is a book called Seeing is Believing. So if you're interested in this or you want to learn more, come and talk to me or check out this book, Seeing is Believing by pastor and author Greg Boyd. Basically, he was the pastor at a church, and he was finding there were some people that really connected with prayer and really connected with worship, and there were other people that just really struggled connecting with God. They really struggled in their worship, and they really struggled in their prayer, and maybe that's you. I know it's been me at different seasons of my life. And he says one of the biggest things that he found is the difference is that the people that really connect with God, they're able to connect with God in this sort of way. They're able to imagine Jesus' face when they worship and then they pray. And maybe it's not quite that tangible, but it becomes less sort of like static and structured and more just actually sitting in God's presence. So if that would be a helpful resource, I encourage you to check it out. You see, friends, here's the thing that I know is that we can't keep chasing the MacGuffins. We can't keep looking to all of the things in our life that will never truly satisfy or we will never truly find fulfillment in. So as we close, I ask you, what MacGuffins have you been searching after? When you look at this equation, what are the things that you've been putting in this place? That as we close this morning and we spend a couple minutes singing together, what are some things that you need to lay behind you? What are some things that you need to let go of this morning in order that you can again find your hope, your fulfillment, your peace, your love, your joy, everything your life in Jesus? Let us just follow him. Let us spend time with him. Let us seek him with all that we are. Let us turn from whatever we have tried to add to Jesus, and let's just spend time with him. So like I said, I'm going to pray, and then we're just going to close with a song. And as we close with that song, I would just encourage you to fix your attention on Jesus, to just worship him for who he really is. Spend some time in his presence as we close this morning. God, I just thank you. God, I thank you for who you are. Because God, you're a God that loved us so much that you sent your son. That we can have a relationship with you, God, through your son, Jesus. God, that you so loved us, so pursue us. God, we can even sing songs like, God, your love is so reckless towards us, so relentless towards us, that God, you would even go so far as to send your son, Jesus, and that he would die for us. He'd just come to show us. He'd also show us his love for us in that he would die for us in order that we wouldn't be held back by our sin. We wouldn't be held back by our mistakes or by our brokenness or by our mess or our troubles, God, but that we could have life in you, that we could have hope in you, that we could have forgiveness and grace and mercy in you, Jesus. God, I thank you so much for that. I thank you so much for that. And God, I just pray that as we close, God, for those in this room, God, I pray that they would know that you've just been waiting for them. God, that you've always been waiting for them. God, that you just long to be with them. God, you long to remind all of us who we really are in you. God, you long to speak to us. You long to lead us. God, help us to have the strength to do that. Help us to have the strength to live a life that for us, it's Jesus plus nothing. Jesus plus nothing. Help us find satisfaction in that. Help us find fulfillment in that. We don't need to chase after all this stuff anymore.